A very good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Hindi newspaper analysis brought to you by Shankar IAS Academy. Today's date is 7th of August 2023. Displayed here are the list of news articles that we are going to discuss today. We have chosen articles from yesterday's newspaper as well. So without much delay, let us get into the first news article discussion. This news article is about the Miyawaki method. See, in 2020, the Greater Chennai Corporation has plans of developing Miyawaki forest at 1,000 locations across the city. But until now, fewer than 40 such forests were developed in the city. This is what is mentioned in the news article. The article also highlights some issues with the Miyawaki method. So in this news article discussion, we shall see some of the important points about Miyawaki method. See, the Miyawaki method is a special way of planting trees that helps create dense and diverse forest quickly. It is named after a Japanese botanist, Akira Miyawaki, who developed this method. In this method, instead of planting trees far apart, the Miyawaki method plants trees close together like a crowded forest. Many different kinds of native trees are planted together in a small area. This creates a strong and diverse forest that grows quickly. In addition to this, in this method, the plants are chosen based on the area's natural condition like soil and climate. This helps the forest grow better. In simple words, the Miyawaki method is a fast way of making forest by planting many different trees close together. Now, what are the benefits of the Miyawaki method? Firstly, this method helps us grow compact forest in urban areas where space is limited. Secondly, the forests are self-sustaining. Due to this, the Miyawaki forest requires very little human care once it is established. So, the amount spent for maintaining a Miyawaki forest is negligible. Thirdly, it helps in carbon sequestration. Then it helps in reducing urban heat island effect by greening the cities. Finally, this forest also creates habitat for local animals and insects. These are some of the advantages of Miyawaki forest. Although it has many advantages, it also has some issues associated with it. Environmentalists believe that as the trees are tightly packed together, they cannot attain their full growth. Due to this, Miyawaki forests are not ecologically beneficial. Also, in some cases, the crowded planting might lead to competition for sunlight and water amongst the trees. This also reduces the forest ecological efficiency. These are some issues with the method. So the conservationists are of opinion that instead of investing in Miyawaki forest, the government should rather invest in micro forest where native trees are planted in a spacious manner and are allowed to grow wider along with other creepers. This will have a long-term positive impact on the cities. That is all about the news article. In this news article, we saw what is this Miyawaki method, what are some of the significance of the method, and we saw some of the issues with the method with the way forward. So with these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Take a look at this article. It talks about the concerns related to Jan Viswas Act, which was recently amended by the Parliament. The article raises questions about the danger to separation of power because of this legislation. So in this news article discussion, let us see some of the important points about Jan Viswas Act and what are the main concerns raised by the author regarding the act. Before that, the syllabus relevant to this news article is highlighted here for your reference. You can go through it. Firstly, what is Jan Viswas Act? See, recently the Jan Viswas Amendment of Provisions Bill 2023 was passed in Lok Sabha. Its aim is to give a boost to ease of living and ease of doing business. The Jan Viswas Amendment of Provisions Bill 2022 amends 42 laws across multiple sectors including agriculture, environment, media and publication. Provisions in Indian Post Office Act 1898, then the Environment Protection Act 1986 and the Information Technology Act 2000 are all amended through this single act. The bill converts several fines to penalties, meaning that court prosecution is not necessary to administer punishments. It also removes imprisonment as a punishment for many offences. Note that all offences under the Post Office Act 1898 are being removed. The main objective of the bill is to decriminalize minor offences that do not involve any harm to the public interest or national security and place them with civil penalties or administrative actions. The bill also provides for the appointment of adjudicating officers to decide penalties. In addition to that, it also specifies the appellate mechanism for this adjudication. These are the basic information about the Act. Now we shall see what are the concerns raised by the author in the article. See, even though the Act was introduced with the aim of improving the ease of doing business, it has largely transferred the power to impose monetary penalties from the judiciary to the bureaucracy. According to the article, designated bureaucrats now have the authority to impose fines and order compensation for offences under different laws, including Environmental Protection and Air Pollution Act. Additionally, forest officers are granted the authority to conduct inquiry and order compensation for damage to forest under amendments to the Indian Forest Act. This transfer of power from judiciary to bureaucracy can undermine the constitutional principle of separation of power. According to the author, this would go against Article 50 of Indian Constitution that suggests for achieving separation of powers. The author also raises concerns about the appointment of adjudicating officers and technical competence of adjudicating officers. The article highlights three distinct methods through which the bureaucracy has attempted to gain control over judicial powers. First is the creation of judicial tribunals. See, starting in the 1980s, different ministries established judicial tribunals to assume judicial functions previously carried out by the judiciary. Next is the establishment of statutory regulators led by bureaucrats. The Union government created statutory regulators like the Securities and Exchange Board of India and the Competition Commission of India, which possessed punitive powers over the private sector. Many of these positions are occupied by senior bureaucrats. And finally, the introduction of adjudicatory officers. See, Union government introduced the role of adjudicatory officers in various laws like the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, the Information Technology Act and the Food Safety and Standards Act. These officers, who were also bureaucrats, were granted the authority to impose penalties on businesses. The Jan Viswas Act follows a similar pattern by creating adjudicatory officers within the bureaucracy to levy penalties. So these are some of the areas where the executive branch encroaches upon judicial power. The constitutionality of these approaches has been challenged in court. Here the central issue is whether the imposition of penalties qualifies as a judicial function or not. The article argues that any process involving fact-finding, application of the law and determination of punishment or compensation is inherently judicial in nature. An executive should not take functions in their hand. It means that the government should not act as both prosecutor and judge, as this goes against the principle of the rule of law. So overall, the article talks about the erosion of the separation of power in India due to ongoing efforts by the bureaucracy supported by elected officials. The concern is that the Republic of India is moving away from the principle of separation of power, which is essential for maintaining a balanced system of governance. See, the views expressed here are the personal views of the author. Based on the discussion, you can develop your own opinion with a justification. Okay? So these are all some of the takeaway points from this news article discussion. With these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Take a look at this science page article from yesterday's newspaper. According to this article, an enzyme by the name DPP4 has been recently discovered. This enzyme has antidiabetic properties. That is, it can be used to treat diabetes. The interesting thing is that our gut bacteria has the ability to produce DPP4 isozymes. Here, gut bacteria is nothing but the complex community of bacteria that reside in our gastrointestinal tract. These gut bacteria have co-evolved along with humans over millions of years and have established a symbiotic relationship. They aid us in digestion, nutrient absorption, metabolism, and weight management. And as I just mentioned, scientists have found that our gut bacteria also produce a DPP4 isozyme. Here, isozyme are different forms of the same enzyme that perform the same reaction but may have variations in their properties and characteristics. This is about the article given here. In this context, let us see some of the important points about diabetes. See, normally our bodies break down the food we eat into sugar, that is glucose. This glucose is released into our bloodstream and glucose is used as a source of energy by the body. The thing that you have to note here is that although glucose is used as energy by our body, an excess amount of glucose is detrimental to our health. So, in a healthy individual, when there is excess sugar or glucose in the bloodstream, the pancreas, which is an endocrine gland, releases insulin. Insulin is a hormone that aids us in maintaining our blood sugar level. Insulin is like a messenger that helps control the amount of sugar or glucose in our body. When there is excess glucose in the bloodstream, insulin converts this excess sugar into fat and stores it in our liver. Then when there is a deficit of sugar in our bloodstream, our pancreas release another hormone called the glucagon. This glucagon converts the fat stored in the liver back into glucose. This is how glucose level is maintained at an optimum level in our body. Any disturbance in this normal functioning leads to diabetes. Say, diabetes is a medical condition in which the body has trouble regulating its blood sugar levels. Actually, there are two types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune condition. This means the body's immune system, which usually protects against harmful things like infections, mistakenly attacks and destroys the cells in the pancreas that make insulin. Due to this sugar buildup in our bloodstream, leading to high blood sugar levels. People with type 1 diabetes need to take insulin externally, usually through injections or an insulin pump. This helps control their blood sugar levels and keep them healthy. Type 1 diabetes is often diagnosed with children or young adults, but it can happen at any age. The exact cause is still not fully understood, but it is thought to involve a mix of genetic and environmental factors. Moving on to type 2 diabetes. See, in type 2 diabetes, the body's cells become resistant to the effects of insulin. This means that even though the pancreas may be producing enough insulin, the cells don't respond properly. This results in higher demand for insulin. Initially, our pancreas will work overtime to address the increased insulin demand. But over time, the pancreas may struggle to keep up with the increased demand for insulin, leading to reduced insulin production. This is about type 2 diabetes. Type 2 diabetes is more likely to develop in adulthood, but it's becoming increasingly common among younger people due to lifestyle factors. Now moving on to the treatment. Treatment for type 2 diabetes can involve lifestyle changes like healthy diet, regular physical activity, and weight management. Some people may also need oral medications or insulin therapy to help manage their blood sugar levels. These are all some of the basic points that you have to remember about type 1 and type 2 diabetes. With these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Take a look at this article. Recently, our Union Minister for Skill Development in a symposium organized by the IIT Madras mentioned that DIR-V would help India become Atmanirbhar in semiconductors. In addition to this, it will also make India a global hub for electronics system design and manufacturing. This is about the article given here. So in this context, let us see a few points about this DIR-V program. See, DIR-V stands for Digital India RISCV, in short called as DIR-V program. And RISCV actually stands for Reduced Instruction Set Computer. It is a type of computer architecture that is designed to make things faster and simpler for the computer to understand and do tasks. The main aim of this program is to enable creation of microprocessors for the world from India. It also aims at creating industry-grade commercial silicon and design for the next generation of microprocessors by December 2023. To achieve this aim, the government through this program aims to establish partnerships between startups, academia and multinationals. Through this program, the government aims to supply RISCV SoC system on chips to the world for mobile devices, servers, IoT, automotive, microcontrollers and etc. This is all about the program. Here just now I mentioned about SoC, right? What is this SoC? See, in your laptop or a PC, you have a CPU like an Intel Core or AMD Ryzen processor, right? This processor handles most of the computing tasks. The laptop or the PC might have separate chips for graphics, that is like a graphic card, then memory like RAM and other functions. But in your phone, you will find an SoC, system on chip, like Qualcomm, Snapdragon or MediaTek. This chip includes the CPU, graphics, memory and other necessary components all in one chip. It is like a mini computer in your hand. Also note that Apple computers' recent M1 and M2 chipsets are examples of SoCs that can be used to power laptops. So to put it in simple words, SoC is like a tiny computer that fits on a single chip. It's not just a CPU, it also has other important parts like memory, graphics and communication features. SoC are used in devices where space and power efficiency are important. Due to this, they are used in a wide range of devices from smartphones and tablets to smart TVs, wearables devices, home appliances and even some cars. They are everywhere. SoCs power these devices by integrating multiple functions into one compact unit. This is why India through the Digital India RISCV, in short called as DIR-V program, is aiming to design SoCs. That's all regarding this news article discussion. Since the article talked about a new program, we thought to explain it to you in simple words. So with these learned points, now let us move on to the next news article discussion. Take a look at this article from yesterday's newspaper. According to the article, the scientists have found that clouded leopards do not follow any specific pattern of movement like other carnivores. They seem to go wherever they please without worrying about the predators. They have also found that clouded leopards used a variety of habitats including forest, grasslands and rivers. See, the clouded leopard is a vulnerable species and it is at risk of extinction. The study was conducted by scientists in Manas National Park, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is about the crux of news article given here. In this context, let us discuss about clouded leopard, their habitat distribution, threats to their survival and conservation efforts taken to protect them. See, India is the only country to have 5 big cat species. They are lion, tiger, Indian leopard, snow leopard and clouded leopard. The clouded leopards have a unique pattern of large dark spots and irregular strips in their skin that resembles clouds. And this is how they got their name, clouded leopard. This camouflage skin helps the clouded leopard to blend in with the shadows in the forest. Note that clouded leopard is the state animal of Meghalaya. Talking about its conservation status, there are only about less than 10,000 clouded leopards living in the wild. Clouded leopards are listed as vulnerable on the IUCN Red List. They are protected under Appendix 1 of CITES. Now we shall see the habitat distribution of clouded leopards. See, clouded leopards live in Nepal, Bangladesh, Eastern India, Indonesia, Southern China and Taiwan. In India, it occurs in Sikkim, West Bengal, Meghalaya, Tripura, Mizoram, Manipur, Assam, Nagaland and Arunachal Pradesh. They prefer grassland, shrubs, subtropical and dense tropical forest up to a height of 7,000 feet in the Himalayan foothills. Important difference between snow leopard and clouded leopard is that snow leopards are larger and live in alpine environments, while clouded leopards live in dense forest. Snow leopards are distributed in western Himalayas, while clouded leopards are distributed in eastern Himalayas. Important national parks where clouded leopard can be found are Kanchenjunga National Park in Sikkim, Manas National Park in Assam, Balpakram National Park in Meghalaya, Deepru Saikova National Park in Arunachal Pradesh, Buksa National Park in West Bengal, Clouded Leopard National Park in Tripura. Talking about the threats faced by them, see, the first issue is habitat loss and fragmentation. Clouded leopards need large undistributed forests to survive. However, their habitat is being destroyed at an alarming rate due to logging, mining and agricultural expansion. Then poaching is the biggest threat for their survival. Clouded leopards are hunted for their fur, which is used to make coats and other garments. They are also hunted for their meat, which is considered a delicacy in some cultures. Another important problem is human-wildlife conflict. Clouded leopards sometimes prey on livestock, which can lead them to being killed by farmers. They may also be killed in retaliation for attacks on humans. Also note that clouded leopards have low genetic diversity, which makes them more vulnerable to diseases and other threats. So these are the threats faced by them. Now talking about the conservation efforts, say clouded leopard project by Indian government was created to protect clouded leopards in the eastern Himalayas. The project is working to create protected area, combat poaching and reduce human-wildlife conflict. Then the Clouded Leopard Conservation Fund provides financial support to organizations that are working to protect clouded leopards, and the Clouded Leopard Alliance is a collaboration of organizations that are working to protect clouded leopards all over the world. The alliance is working to raise awareness about clouded leopards, promote conservation efforts and support research. So these are all some of the points that you have to remember about clouded leopards. With these learned points, now let us move on to the next part of the news article discussion, which is the preliminary practice question discussion. Now take a look at this question. 4 statements are given and you have to find how many statements given here is or not correct. Look at this first statement. This method helps create dense and diverse forests quickly. Statement 2. Only native trees are grown in this method. Statement 3. Although the forest can be raised fast using this method, the cost of maintaining the forest is very high. Statement 4. In the 2023 Union Budget, the government allocated 300 crore for developing Miyawaki forest in major metro cities. You have to find here the correct statements. Here only 2 statements are correct. Third and fourth statement is wrong. Third statement is wrong because the maintained cost for Miyawaki forest is very low. It is not very high. That's why this statement is wrong. Statement 4 is incorrect because Union Budget did not mention anything about Miyawaki forest. Okay. So here the correct answer for the question is option B, only 2. Now moving on. Look at this question about SOC, system on chips. 4 statements are given and you have to find how many statements given here are correct. First statement, SOC contains CPU, graphics, memory and other necessary components all on one chip. See, this statement is actually correct. We saw in the discussion, right? Second statement says it is more space efficient and energy efficient than a traditional microprocessor. This is also true. Third statement, it is mainly used in smartphones, smart TV, gaming devices and in cars. This statement is also correct. Statement 4, Apple's M1 and M2 chipsets are examples of ARM based SoC. This statement is also actually correct. Okay, so here all the statements are correct. So the correct option for the question is option D, all 4. Now moving on, Here statements regarding type 1 diabetes is given. Look at this first statement. It is an autoimmune condition. Yes, it is autoimmune condition. Statement 2, the body tends to develop insulin resistance. See, insulin resistance is actually related to type 2 diabetes. So this statement is wrong. Third statement says it is found only in children or young adults. See, this statement is also incorrect. Type 1 diabetes is often diagnosed in children or young adults, but it can happen at any age. So third statement is incorrect. Look at this fourth statement. People with type 1 diabetes need to take insulin externally. This statement is actually correct. So the correct answer for this question is option B, only 2. Now moving on, the question displayed here is the prelims quiz question for you today. Just go through the question and try to answer it in the comment section. The question displayed here is the mains practice question for you today. Just go through the question, try to answer it in the comment section. So with this, we came to the end of the news article discussion. If you like the video, hit like, do comment, and don't forget to subscribe to Shankar IAS Academy YouTube channel. Now thank you for listening.